Oh, it sounds like a wind tunnel. That is not great. I will mute myself for now. All right. Hello, everyone. We are going to go ahead and get started. I know that we do have some stragglers coming in, but that is a-okay. We are recording this, and so it will be sent to all of you at the end. So if you need to drop off early or anything like that, it is totally okay. Can everyone in the chat just go ahead and let me know that they can hear me speaking and get some sort of confirmation on that? Yay, great. Perfect. So I just wanted to introduce myself quickly. My name is Megan Keller. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm the community manager for General Assembly in Minneapolis and in Louisville. I lead the markets for both of those metros. So if you're joining from there, which I see a lot of people are, welcome. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or email me afterwards. I would love to chat with you and get to know you, and everyone else too. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I can direct you to the right folks at General Assembly. So I just want to quickly tell you what General Assembly is before we get into this content that I'm so excited about today. So General Assembly is the global leader in skills-based and tech education. We have over 30 locations now, all running remotely, likely through the end of the year, with full-time and part-time courses, and then free events like this, as well as short-form classes and workshops. We teach anything from coding to user experience design and data. We have immersive courses in software engineering, data science, user experience design, and then we have part-time courses in things like digital marketing, other business topics, and then the events that we're running like this largely fall into the career development category. We really just want to bring people together and help as many people as possible find careers that they love. So just want to go through some Zoom etiquette quickly. It looks like most of you are familiar, but we're going to rely on the Zoom chat throughout the session, which you're using, to put questions in real time. So you can do that. Just make sure you have your settings to all panelists and attendees. You can also use the Q&A function, and I'll be watching both of those. Like I said, the event's going to be recorded. We'll send it out afterwards. And if you want to hop on social media, we have presences on Facebook, LinkedIn, which we'll get into, Instagram, and we're just at General Assembly. And visit ga.co or ga.co/events, and you can go ahead and sign up for other events or get more information as you see fit. Like I said, I'll be sending out a follow-up email as well, so don't worry about taking too many notes. Just try to pay attention and stay engaged with us. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Luann to turn on her video and audio, and I'm going to stop talking because I am not the reason you're all here. It's my cat. I'm not the reason you're all here. She is. And so I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and talk through kind of what the next hour or so will look like. So welcome, Luann.
Hi, Megan. Thank you for inviting me to this session. And it was great to just be watching what was going on in the chat box and see that people are from all over the world watching this, but also from my home location, which is the Cotswolds in the UK as well. So a few familiar names in there too.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that I'm not grateful that COVID is rocking the world right now, of course, but it has given me the opportunity to meet you and meet any number of speakers from all over the world to hear their expertise. You know, I'm not so much in my Minneapolis and Louisville bubble, so I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to hear what you have to share today.
Cool, thank you. So I'll do a quick intro into who I am and then what we're going to talk about today. So my name is Luann Wise, spelt just as it is in the screen, and having a slightly unique name, I should be easy to find on any of the social media platforms, or my website as well, if you just want to kind of Google that in. I'm a marketer. I have been a marketer for 20 years. Have to count that up. I started my career working in advertising agencies, moved after a few years to work in client side as a marketing manager, very high growth business I worked in for a number of years. And then actually it was my business birthday last week. I've now run my own consultancy business for 9 years. And I have a really lovely mix of working directly with clients who are mostly in the B2B area. So I work with law firms, other professional services, manufacturers, but also some B2C in terms of household cleaning products. I do also work one-to-one with some individuals, supporting them on their journey and thought leadership and content as well. But also an amazing mix of kind of being really hands-on, but also training and teaching as well across a number of locations and platforms. In fact, I've been one of LinkedIn's own online learning instructors for 4 years now. So I have a number of courses on their platform, and I know we're going to talk about that as a premium feature later on. I'm also accredited and one of Facebook's lead trainers for Facebook and Instagram as well. I do coaching for Google. I like to get involved in lots of things as just my way of learning, networking, giving back, but also it's things that I can talk about on social media, because when you work directly with clients, you can't always talk about what you're doing for them or show their stats and things. So I love just having such a rich balance of what I do day in, day out.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it when you list all of the different things that you work for, because it just lends itself to kind of the generalist lifestyle that I lead. And as we were talking about before, I was asking about like various platforms and everything. And so it's nice that you're able to speak to B2B, B2C, one-on-one, LinkedIn, and then kind of not necessarily for this, but like Facebook and Instagram, you have kind of this wealth of global knowledge, which I'm really looking forward to learning. And for all of you out there, I basically found Luann online through happenstance, because I was just curious about my own data in LinkedIn, and we ended up connecting through another colleague of mine, and it's just been really wonderful to work together. So I think we're going to have a lot of insights throughout this next hour or so.
Cool. Yeah, it was a specific article, wasn't it, that I guest author for Social Media Examiner. And, you know, as the world of Google works, if you're looking for something, then the answer comes up. And it was a how-to article that I'd written 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think it was basically the same title as this event. And I am basically pretty bad at LinkedIn. So I was trying to come up with an event that I would really enjoy. So very excited that you're here and able to dig in.
Cool. Well, I think there's something that we were talking about before this session, in that I think when people talk about social media and doing social media, whether it's their job or for themselves, that they focus so much of their time on posting, you know, kind of writing updates or writing tweets or Facebook posts and kind of, you know, tick it off and job done. But for me, that's such a small part of social media and what you do. You know, we could do other sessions about what to post and things like that. But for me, it's kind of the geeky side, is that, you know, I want to be creative. I want to get the messages out there, but I want to know how well things are going. And whenever I get questions in training sessions that say, what's the best platform? What's the best this? What's the best that? My answer is always, it depends. And my other answer is, your answers are in your own data. Because, you know, in the old world, when I started off my marketing career and, you know, was working on direct mail campaigns, we would look at industry benchmarks and have percentages of expected response rates and work everything back. But I think social media is so different. Every platform is different. Everyone is at a different stage of their usage of social media as well. So I don't think that we can really have the benchmarks and, you know, expectations as such. For me, it's all about trialing and testing, and then looking at your own data and just trying to improve on it as well. So I'm going to dive into my data in a second, but I would just say, you know, my data is going to be very different from anyone else that's looking at this. I've been using LinkedIn for probably about 10 years, 10, 11 years now. And I do this day in, day out, but I am a business of one with my own name. I've not got a big corporate brand that I'm working with. So my data is my data and yours will be very different. But what I'm looking for is trends and insights and what that can show me. And that's kind of the fun bit in a geeky kind of way.
Yeah, I'm going to hit you with a sudden question that I just thought of. I hope that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Could you, before you get started, could you speak to the importance on LinkedIn? There's kind of this threshold, right, of having 500 or more connections.
Yeah.
And then after 500, it's kind of this nebulous number of who knows, right? So what's the significance or importance of getting, you know, to that 500 threshold?
Yeah. That's really interesting because that was a number that was, well, it's obviously still being used as, you know, is 500 plus really important? And there's a balance here between collecting numbers and having a network and 500 being seen as the number that you want to reach. But for me, it's, you know, if I saw someone that please do connect with me after this session. If I see that you've only got kind of 20, 30, 40 connections, I would just assume that you're new to LinkedIn, and that's absolutely fine. On the flip side, if I see that you've got, you know, 30, 40,000, I'd know that you're either a very heavy seller or you're an influencer. For me, that number's not so important to me, but it's probably important to them. But I will show you that even though at the top of your profile it says 500 plus, and some people see that as a magic number to get through, once you scroll down onto someone's profile, you can actually see exactly what their number is.
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. I always thought it was just like, you have to get to 500 and then you're there, you know, you made it.
Well, and there's actually a difference now. So that 500 is related to connections, but you can also, there's a difference. So connecting is a reciprocal relationship. So Megan, you and I have connected with first level connections. We can see, you know, everything each other's doing. But there is also an option, and it's actually the default option on my profile, of following. And following is only one way.
Okay.
And what tends to happen is that we are connected right now. But if I decided that you were doing lots of activity that was appearing in my newsfeed that I didn't think was so relevant and I didn't want to see it anymore, I could unfollow you. So I could break my side of it, but you would still see my activity.
And then we would no longer be connections.
We would be connected, but I wouldn't be following you. I've decided that I'm actually going to kind of filter your stream of activity out, but you would still be seeing me. So when you connect by default, you also follow, but you could just follow, which is a one-way thing. And you will see now that influencers have follow as a default. I have follow as the default, largely because I'm a LinkedIn Learning course instructor, and many people after watching a course want to connect with you, but I don't always want to have a reciprocal relationship and see everything from the 100,000 people plus that watch my course in my newsfeed. So I allow a kind of a one-way version.
Sure.
So when the 500 plus is for connections, but actually on your profile, I can see how many followers you have, which may be the same as your connections, or it actually may be slightly higher.
Right. And you're the person who changed that, your setting to follow. It wasn't some sort of magical thing that happened automatically.
No, I did that. You can do that in your privacy and settings. If you go down to your privacy and settings, there is a blocking and hiding section at the end. So if you decide that actually you would like follow as your default, then that could be an option. I actually know quite a lot of academics that like that as their default as well. So if their students want to kind of follow their activity and things like that, they don't have the time and necessarily the capacity to connect with every single student that they teach, but they could have this kind of one-way follow relationship. So maybe it's something that people want to test.
Yeah, in the chat, someone wants to know if you have to follow someone to be able to tag them.
No, you don't.
Right, you can
tag people that you're not connected to. It's not always as easy. LinkedIn can be a little bit clunky sometimes when you start to tag and you type the @ you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, but to be honest, if you wanted to tag them, I would probably want to connect with them or have a relationship with them first anyway, rather than, tagging when you don't really know someone is a little bit random.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Cool. So let me show you. So if I
Yeah.
share my screen.
And while you're doing that, just everyone, so that you know, the chat is okay for questions, the Q&A. I'm basically serving as Luann's filter so she can go through stuff, but if there's stuff that's pertinent to the conversation, I'll definitely chime in with it. And also you can put stuff in the Q&A. We'll make sure to hit everything. While you're opening that, can I ask you a question, Luann?
Yeah, sure.
Someone in the Q&A wants to know if you can see their activity, but they can't see yours. And that would be what follow, wait, their activity.
That's the follow, yeah.
Right, you're following them and they're not following you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. The person asked it anonymously, but I hope that's helpful.
Yeah. When you follow someone, they will get a notification that you're following them. So you can't do it completely anonymously. You know, if you started following me today, I would get something in my notification tab that says you're following. So I'll just look at your profile, Megan. So you're not quite at the 500 magic.
I'm not. No, that's why you're helping me.
But if we scroll down here to your activity, can you see here, because you are active and you're posting on LinkedIn, I can actually see your number of followers under here as well. So if it was over the 500 plus,
it would still say, okay, that's probably why I didn't know that number went.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so if you think that, and we can see today's post that it's 500 plus is a bit of a magic thing, it's not, because the real number of followers is down there. And actually, just to show you this part, this is where I would go onto someone's profile to see if they're active on LinkedIn, because if
that's important, right?
Yeah, because I want to connect with people that are active on LinkedIn, because then they're going to share my stuff or comment on my stuff or see my stuff. If they're not even active on LinkedIn, they're probably not logging in, they're not looking at any content. So quite often I will just kind of scroll down someone's profile and check that there is a box of activity here, because if they haven't got anything, they probably set their profile up once, cut and paste it as a LinkedIn, as a CV for getting a job, and then haven't touched it again. So that's what I'm looking at for on other people's profile. So this is my home screen of my LinkedIn profile. We are recording, and I'm really happy that I'm sharing data with you. Obviously, if people's names and photos come up, then please don't zoom in on those too closely. But it's when I'm on my home screen, I can see quite quickly how many people have viewed my profile and how many people have seen the last post that I did. The post is when I share an update on LinkedIn. If I click onto this one, who's viewed your profile is data from the last 90 days. So in the last 90 days, 968 people have viewed my profile.
And that's unique people.
That's unique
not
people.
Number of views.
No.
Okay, and also as you're going through this, it would help, I think, if you could distinguish between what you're doing being a premium feature and what you're doing included.
Okay.
I think that's going to keep coming up. It just came in the chat, but I think it will be helpful for people to know what they have the muscle to do in the free version, and then what they would need to upgrade to do.
Okay, yeah. If it's a paid for feature, I'll make sure I let you know. So you should be able to see this on a free version, either by clicking on the left-hand panel or when you are looking at your own profile, which I'll show you later. But I like the fact that I've got this 90-day figure, which is important. But what's more important to me is to see how I do week by week. And actually, when I was talking to Megan about doing this session last week, I was like, I need to make sure that I've got a plus number, that my graph is on the way up if I'm going to do live demos of my profile. So my numbers are plus 71% on last week, which means this week, if I hover over, there's been 132 views of my profile so far this week. Last week, 77. So I'm up. And I'm kind of looking week by week just to kind of see what my pattern is, to try and keep it consistent. Or if I have peaks, it's because I know that I've released something new, like a new course, or I'm doing a talk that I'm heavily promoting. I'll try and understand where there are peaks and perhaps dips in my graph as well. I'll share with you that actually before in March lockdown, I said numbers are unique to everyone. My numbers pre-lockdown were about 500 views every 90 days. But because of lockdown, not being able to go out to events, which were a big part of my business, training face-to-face, I made a very conscious decision that I needed to increase my online visibility. That's how I was going to maintain my business. That's how I was going to be talking to people. So since lockdown, since March, my views have doubled. And that's by being more active on the platform, doing what it is I train people to do as a way from kind of replacing that physical networking that I was doing, meeting people face to face every week, to doing all of my network on this platform. So that's really important for me. The important thing about who's viewed your profile, it's not just a vanity, oh look, everyone's looking at me. I want people to view my profile because that's a business opportunity. And this is where the key is between the free account and the paid for account. On a free account, even though you'd get this graph down here, you would only be able to see the last 4 or 5 people that had viewed your profile. On a paid for account, you can see everyone. You may see sometimes in here, it's probably not an example, if it just said LinkedIn member and doesn't show me their details, that's down to their privacy settings. That's down to the fact that someone has decided that they want to be in anonymous mode, private mode. Whether I have a paid for account or not, I cannot override someone else's privacy settings. Now, why it's so important that people are looking at my profile is because I can send them messages. And this is how I work LinkedIn most of the time, is I will post some content so that I appear in people's news feeds, I stay visible. But what I'm looking for all the time is opportunities to have one-to-one conversations. So one thing I do actually really love about LinkedIn is it's not as fast as the other social media platforms. I'm not going to leap on this person that looked at my profile 3 minutes ago. I wonder if it's someone on this session or not. You know, that would be a bit too freaky. But I will go into my who's viewed my profile a couple of times a week and have a look through. So I can see here, forgive me if this is your names I'm reading out, Leo, we're 3rd level of connection here. So we actually have no one in common in the world of LinkedIn right now. Patrick has a 2nd against him, and I can see who the person is that we have mutually in common that makes you that 1 step removed. So what I'm going to be looking for is people that maybe have a 1st against them that I'm already connected to. Roman here. If I hadn't spoken to him for a while, perhaps, you know, maybe he's a client or a contact, I would be able to send him a message and it'd be kind of like, hi Roman, saw you had a look at my profile today. We haven't spoken for a while. We must catch up on that topic we talked about before. I'm trying to instigate a conversation. If it's someone a 2nd or a 3rd and I haven't spoken to them before, I will always check their profile out first, because this is the thing about LinkedIn is sometimes I've got a nice smiley face, sometimes I've got a little bit of information about who they are in their headline, but not enough really to make a decision about, are they in my target audience? Are they, you know, in my world? Are they someone I should be speaking to? So I would have a look at them, but then I would also be sending them a message of kind of, hi Patrick, saw you had a look at my LinkedIn profile last week. Just wondered if there was something I could help you with. So I'm not trying to overtly go in and say, hi Patrick, saw you looking at my profile, can I sell you something? I'm just going to kind of say, saw you, can I help with anything? Which is a bit softer, gentler, open into a conversation. And that usually starts conversations. I'll get messages back on that.
Yeah, so like I predicted, Louie, we have a lot of questions coming through, which is how I thought the nature of this event would be. So one thing to clarify, and I'm copy pasting all of your questions from the chat into my own document, so I'm going to work hard to get through all of them throughout the whole thing. So just to clarify, other people cannot see who is looking at your profile. It's only for you, right? I see other people looking at mine, and that's the end of that. Yeah. Okay. And then someone wants to know the difference between a profiles, and I think you kind of alluded to this, but saying connect, in-mail, message. So are they they're the ones that dictate that with their own settings, right?
Yeah. So I can message when I'm a 1st level connection to them. So that's kind of, they've given me their number. I can send them messages. When I'm not connected to them because they're a second or a third, I've either got the option of going onto their profile and sending them a connection request to try and swap business cards, or the other options are to send an in-mail, which is something that is a premium feature. It is something that you get credits for. But to be honest, I wouldn't really use that because I'd probably want to connect with them. So if I didn't have a paid for account, I would just go onto this person's profile, send them that as the message. Hi, Patrick, saw you having a look at my profile. We're not yet connected. Shall we do so? And is there anything I can help you with?
Sure. Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
So the main key here is that if you're on a free account and when you look at your stats, you're getting a lot of people looking at your profile, I would upgrade, because I don't know what it is in dollars. I think it's about 30 English pounds, $40 a month for a premium account. But if I was missing out on 968 opportunities every 90 days, I kind of think that £30, $40 is worth it as a business development cost. I don't know what your costs of face-to-face networking events are, but that would probably cover a couple of events
Sure.
that I was going to as well.
And then can you speak to obviously we can set our own privacy settings so that people can't see if we look at their profiles, right? That would be private viewing. Yeah. So do you have any recommendations either way? That might perhaps depend on the type of work you do, but is it usually recommended that people can see if you're looking at their profile?
So I'll just show you where those are. So it's in Me here at the top, and then you go down to settings and privacy, and it's profile viewing options. So choose whether you're visible or viewing in private mode. So for this session, I decided to go in private mode because I didn't know whose profiles I'd end up clicking on. So I'm anonymous right now. So Megan, when I looked at your profile, I won't have left my footprint on your profile in the last 10 minutes. I would switch it most of the time to being fully visible, because there is one nuance that if I was in private mode all of the time, LinkedIn probably wouldn't be showing me who was viewing my profile. I could lose some of that data.
Oh, interesting.
Because LinkedIn's kind of saying, well, if you're not going to show me yours, I'm not going to show you either.
Okay, sure.
So most of the time I would be fully visible. There would be no reason why I wasn't telling people that I was looking at their profile. I want to kind of leave a bit of a signal and a footprint as well. But if I was doing some research on perhaps ex-colleagues, ex-people in the world, competitors, sales directors of competitor organizations, things like that, and I didn't want to leave a footprint, I would go anonymous, do what I needed to do on the platform, and then go back into my settings and go fully visible afterwards.
Okay.
Because everything on LinkedIn is really fluid. It's not like I just go into this once and that's it. I can keep changing things as I need to. So if I was a sales person researching prospects, the first time I was building a prospect list, I'd probably do it in anonymous mode. But when I got closer to wanting to kind of send them messages or have conversations, I probably want them to know that I've left my footprint on their profile and kind of leave a bit of a signal before I make my phone calls.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. So back to LinkedIn. So who's viewed my profile is probably, the biggest key for me. But if we take a step back on that, that's just kind of one of three parts of data. To get the full amount of data, to get my dashboard that was in the article, which I'll share a link to in the session. Again, this is only visible to me. It's when I'm logged in as my username and password. I'm in edit mode because this pencil keeps appearing for me to update my profile. As I'm halfway down my screen, my dashboard, which it says it's private to me, this was the number of who viewed my profile, which I clicked into to get the graph. The other two numbers here are how many times I appeared in search results and how many people have viewed my last post that I did. I'll look at search first. But what's quite interesting here is that my search appearance number, so how many times I appear in a search result, this is in the last week, for me is a lot lower than how many people view my profile, which means to me that a lot of people, when I appear in search, are looking at my profile, they're converting, but also people are finding my profile in other ways through my content or just searching for me. I have seen people's dashboards when I'm working with them where the search appearance number is a lot higher, but they're not getting the profile views. And it could just be as simple as they didn't have a photo on their profile, so they weren't as enticing to get people to kind of pull them through. But the search appearance is important because, again, I want people to be searching for me and what I do, whether they're looking for a marketing consultant or whether they're looking for a LinkedIn trainer or a social media mentor. So I want to, again, benchmark my own stats. I write these down and see how many times I appear in searches in a week. But what's also really useful for me is it's not just about the numbers, it's who is searching for me. So I can see that in this last week, when 266 times I appeared in people's search results, it was people that work for LinkedIn, people that work for Google, a sporting goods company, retail, and Medium, the blogging platform. So for me, that's really interesting. And sometimes I can piece things together and go, oh, that's a company I'm talking to, or I'm, you know, this is something I'm working on. So that's great that they're looking for me. But as you scroll down here as well, you can see what your searchers do. And this is all based on the data that they've given LinkedIn when they've set up their profiles. So interesting. So journalists are looking for me. That's probably from Medium because it's a blogging platform, journalists on there. Some director level people are looking at my profile. Social media specialists are looking, and strategists as well. So that's useful for me to kind of go, are they in my target audience? Or if there was job titles in here that were so not relevant to my business, perhaps I need to change my profile or change my content to reach the right people. And again, down here, it's telling me what keywords people used, what they typed into the search box when they came to find me. And actually, I am all of these things: a coach, a trainer, an author, and a marketing manager. So that's really useful. Sometimes you get words that are so not what you do, and it's kind of like, how did they find me from that? Or actually, if I didn't want to do coaching, I'd probably take the word coach out of my profile and replace it with something else that I did want to be found for. So it's quite dynamic and just useful to see those insights as well.
Cool. Yeah, this is so far super helpful. And I just want to reiterate the fact that we're working on tailoring the content to everyone who's in attendance. And so I think there are different levels of awareness of how LinkedIn works and stuff. Yeah. So obviously you're going to continue, but what I wanted to ask quickly is, do you have recommended resources for people who are brand new to LinkedIn who might have these very basic questions, myself included, where we can kind of direct them? I mean, perhaps you even have some videos or something, just kind of like the crash course, 30-minute, this is how you use LinkedIn.
I do, yeah. I've actually just pulled all of my content together into one website. So it is thelinkedinexpert.co.uk. And on that web page is a link to, I've got a free PDF guide of how to get your profile sorted. I've got a free survey that you can take to ask you questions to kind of, because sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So I've kind of got this kind of survey monkey that will say, do you know how to do this or do you not know how to do that, so that I can help you assess what you need. There is some how-to videos on there as well. And then there's some links to masterclasses and all the blogs that I've written, whether they're on Social Media Examiner as how-to blogs or other blogs that I've put together as well. So that's the LinkedIn
We'll be
expert.
Sure to, we'll send that to everyone afterwards too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Yeah, keep going.
No. It's really useful to kind of, I know everyone's at different levels. I hope that it's either just watching to know that this data is there, and that you can have the recording or the how-to articles afterwards to kind of dive into your own data and see what's there. So the last one, and this is as I said, people spend a lot of time posting content on LinkedIn. My biggest advice on posting content on LinkedIn is be consistent. So consistency for you may be once a week, once a day, it may be once a week, it may be once a fortnight, but just make sure that you show up regularly to your connections. I call it, you don't want to be a yo-yo person and only show up when you've got no work on and you're kind of really needing work, and then disappearing from your network and visibility when you're deep in a project. If you can just make this a habit and show up consistently, as I said, daily, weekly, fortnightly, whatever works for you. And with that content, don't overthink it, because actually the content that people engage with the most is the storytelling of what you're doing, what you're working on. Sometimes, you know, if I posted, I've written a paper, it will get less engagement and less interest than I'm doing an event, would you like to come along? So do have a mixture of content, but just think about it as storytelling. And the reason to do that is because when you post content on your profile, so I just clicked there on post views, and it takes me to all my activity. All activity here includes all the things that I like and comment on. Again, this is only, this is actually visible to anyone. So if I went onto your profile, Megan, and looked at activity, I would also see all activity, articles, posts, and documents. So all activity includes, so I liked this post earlier. I commented on the post that you did about tonight's event. I see a little bit of interaction on there, but actually I only get full stats when it's my own content, when it's content that I post. And that would be either an article, if it was a blog article, or if it was a short form post. Most of the time I would just do short form posts in the box on the home page, because actually that gets more engagement on LinkedIn. Articles do tend to get less engagement. They're longer for people to read. They don't have as much time. I tend to only do an article if I've already written it elsewhere on my website, and then I'll kind of cut and paste it in. I won't usually write long form articles just for LinkedIn. It's probably a question that's in the chat. If I look at posts, this is where the data gets interesting as well. So this was a post I did yesterday. One day ago. Every week I round up all the latest social media updates from Monday email. You can subscribe to that. So I'm kind of promoting people signing up to an email. I can see that 18 people got involved with this with a like. 4 people commented on it. And actually there's not enough data on that one yet to show. You have to reach 100 sometimes before it shows the data. But if I show this post that I did 5 days ago about tonight's event that said, are you reviewing your LinkedIn dashboard? I'm hosting a session for General Assembly. I can see here it had 21 likes or loves or celebrates, 9 comments. But this is the bit I'm interested in, this graph here of how many people view the post. Because I can then click on that and get some more data. So I can only get individuals' data from if they react or post or comment, but I can get some overview data here of where the people that view my post, and that means it appeared in their newsfeed as they were scrolling through, where the people that viewed my post work. I have a key contact within IBM at the moment, so that's increasing my views from IBM. And I can also look at these other organizations and see, are they clients? Are they people I work with? Are they partners? That's useful for me to know. You get a little bit more if you click show more, a couple more companies there. Also interesting for me to know the job title of people that have viewed my post, because again, I want to make sure that I'm reaching the people that are my target audience, because otherwise I'm kind of missing the mark. But also if I'm ever doing any business development and I want to, you know, understand my audience profile, these are the kind of the job roles that I might be searching for. If I kind of think, you know, I've already got quite a lot of these kind of people looking at my content. If I want more, these are the people I could target. And also I get a great location feature as well. So I live in Gloucestershire in the UK. So primarily most of my views on my content is local, because I have quite a large local network, but then it does extend as well to London, UK. I've got some New York and some other locations as well. So this kind of is my own benchmark and my own guide, but for me, it's really about me being able to identify, is my content reaching the people that I want them to reach? And, you know, are my clients looking at it? Are my contacts looking at it? What does it tell me? And what I'm trying to assess from this data really is, what should I do more of? And perhaps what should I do less of? So sometimes if I do a video and the stats are really high, I'll go, I'm going to do more videos. If I post content that has a sketchnote graphic and that gets loads of views and engagement, I will post more sketchnote graphics. So it's always looking for patterns in my own data to see what's working. That just gives me that, what do I need to do more of? What perhaps didn't hit so well and I won't do again.
That makes sense. Someone had the same question that I did about what counts as a view. So if someone's just scrolling through their feed and sees it, I would imagine that doesn't necessarily count as a view, or does it?
It does on your post. So if I scrolled past this one now, that would count as a view on that post.
Okay.
If it was a video, I have to have watched the first 3 seconds of the video for it to count as a view.
Okay.
So,
and then is there any change that happens when you actually click, like let's say you clicked either see more or you clicked out, that doesn't change anything, it's just a view or not a view?
It's a view or not a view, but obviously, you know, views are great, but what you really want is engagement. You want likes and comments, because when I commented on your post earlier, that put it in front of my network. So when you posted and I commented on it, that got shown up to everyone that's connected to me. So the more people that kind of get involved, it's almost like that domino effect of, if you can get people liking it, it goes out to more and more people, which in turn increases the views. So they're all kind of connected.
Okay, so is it okay if I hit you with a couple more?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go.
Cool. Okay, so let me sort my thoughts because I wanted to blend a couple questions. So one person wants to know about how to optimize your views, which you might actually get into. And someone else, I can't find it in the Q&A right now, but someone wanted to know about like the importance of hashtags and if you should or shouldn't use them. So yes. I think the overall sentiment here is like, what do I need to do to make people actually be able to view my posts? And maybe hashtags are a factor. So maybe if you could use one of yours as the example to kind of show like, this is maybe what worked, this didn't work. That would help.
So two parts to this. One is the content itself. And this applies to any platform, is really when you are posting content on social media, think about what you want people to do when they've viewed it. So this was an example. I've kind of said who this one is for. So I'm a judge for some awards. So I've kind of said, calling content marketers, the awards are now open for entry. So I've very quickly said who in my network this is for, my role in it, and then what people need to do and the timings. And this one is just to find out more and enter. But what I would try and encourage people to do is, if we think about the fact that really we want to go for people liking things and commenting on things because it has that domino effect, don't just go, here's my blog, because people will go, and scroll past. If you ask a question, or, you know, this is what I think, how about you? Or, you know, this is my favorite book, this is why, what book has changed your life? There's almost a question there that as people are scrolling, they can't help themselves but answer. But if you don't ask them a question in the first place, they will just keep scrolling.
Right.
So, you know, my marketing terminology would be just make sure that there's a call to action at the bottom. I'm trying, you know, this one, you know, I'm hosting a session. This is when it is. This is what I'm going to do. Join us. That's the call to action. And ultimately, we would measure that by how many people sign up and how many people show up. So the data isn't always in LinkedIn. It's related to the objective of the post, but you know, we have had hundreds of people sign up and show up, so it worked. But yeah, just try and, you know, your best post would be to ask a question or encourage people to do something, not just go, here's my stuff.
And is there any disadvantage or problem's too strong, but is there any reason why you wouldn't want to link to an external site?
Yeah. So the word hasn't come up yet, but I will use it, algorithm. When I do training, I try not to use the word algorithm. There are you will see lots of posts all the time of the algorithm likes this, the algorithm likes that, it doesn't like this. I write for my audience and I write for my objectives. So say for example, the algorithm, which we don't know how it works entirely, if the algorithm doesn't like you going to an external site, but actually here I needed you to go to an external site to sign up for this event, my objective is more important than trying to game an algorithm and not giving my audience the information that they need. So if I need to include a link, like I would with an event, I'm going to include a link. Yes, of course, the social media platforms want you to stay on there and not click out. But if that's my objective for my audience, I need to include a link. I think the answer is don't overthink it. If I've got an image, include an image. There'll be people that say text works best, text doesn't work best, this number of characters, this doesn't. Just write naturally for your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're writing for the people that you know and understand and want to work with you, for me, that's far more important of, is it going to reduce my views slightly? I don't know. The answer would be to test it. But I'm doing everything I can to tell people what it is, give them information, and be helpful rather than trying to. I don't, if I had 50,000 followers and no business, 50,000 followers is kind of worthless. It's the big picture and what your objectives are for using the platform that I think should always take priority.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hashtags in posts. Yes, LinkedIn does want you to use hashtags. If I go back to my homepage, you can follow hashtags as well. So you can follow key hashtags. You will see them here. You can click on them to find hashtags to follow. So I will follow hashtags around LinkedIn, e-commerce, SEO, so that if anyone uses content with those hashtags, it would appear in my news feed. So I know what I'm using LinkedIn for to try and find. And I just think about when I'm writing content, what's the keyword in this? What's it about? So this post is about LinkedIn how-to. And could you see there that actually it started to suggest some hashtags for me based on what I was writing? So,
and is there any, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, LinkedIn is kind of going, you're writing a post, don't forget to add a hashtag. Here's some, either ones you've used before, or here's some ideas from us.
And is there any way to distinguish like how many hashtags, okay, like on, where my question is, like on Instagram, you can see 1 million people follow this hashtag and 7 follow this one. So, okay.
Not so much. I mean, there would, if I went back to, let me go back to the hashtags that are following. I think there is some numbers against these. If I was to click into them, let me have a look. So I can see how many people follow. The LinkedIn hashtag is 969,833. So I can see how many people follow it. So you could do some research around it, but at the same time, I would only use the hashtag LinkedIn in my content if I was writing about LinkedIn. I wouldn't want to gain it for a popular hashtag.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. I would suggest use 2 or 3 hashtags in a post, but just think about it this way. Most people probably watching this have never searched for a hashtag on LinkedIn. They might do now. It is largely journalists that may be searching for people writing topical content, or it will be the LinkedIn editors themselves that are looking for who's writing on this subject as we go through the day, what's timely as well. You can see on the top right of my homepage here, my news will be different to yours. I'm in the UK, but I can see here what the top news content is here. So actually, how important are university degrees? I think this one was. So if I was to get involved with that, or I was a journalist writing about this subject, I would go and search for hashtag university or higher education. So I'd say kind of use them, but don't overthink them or sweat them. And to be honest, if you did a post and it doesn't include them, the world's not going to end.
Right.
Something that will just build, it's kind of small bits of best practices that will build over time.
Yeah.
And the more time you spend on LinkedIn watching people, you'll go, oh, people are doing this. I'll do that too. I like that. I'll try that. So small bits of experimentation all the time.
Gotcha. We have a lot of questions coming in any number of varieties about using LinkedIn ads. I am a total novice, and so I actually don't know how much that fits into the data piece, like paid ads, organic, that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry to all of you out there who are devastated that I don't know a ton about LinkedIn ads. I know General Assembly does events around LinkedIn ads as well. I think you've been involved in one. So I think if you can speak to that as much as it makes sense to this, that might help quite a few folks.
Yeah, so I have written a Social Media Examiner article on back to basics on LinkedIn ads. So again, that's on my website hub, but I will include the link for that.
Yeah, we'll include that in the follow-up too. That'll help people, I think.
So we can see right here on my screen. So ads are run from pages rather than personal profiles. So that's why we won't cover it today. But I can see it's here, right here is promoted. So this is an ad. So there's different types of ads on LinkedIn. There is either promoted, sponsored content here. There is ads, text ads along the top, and then there is small promoted display ads down the side. So ads on LinkedIn work in the same way as other social media ads. They are a self-service platform. It's cost per click. You can select your target audiences. You can build all your ads in the platform. But again, I very rarely look down the right-hand side at ads. Very rarely see what's along the top, but I might see some content in my news feed, and very often that's kind of sponsored content when people have white papers, research papers, things like that. You can also do advertising straight into people's messaging. That's called in-mail campaigns. You may see some of those sometimes as well, but we won't cover that. But we've got some answers on that for follow-up resources.
Okay, great.
What other questions have we got?
I think people, from a job seeker perspective, it seems like people are wondering about like what recruiters see, how you come up for recruiters. Let me see.
If you are looking for a job role, there's a new feature on LinkedIn right now. So if you see when you're in edit mode, can you see here there's this option that says show recruiters you're open to work.
Yep.
And this is a new feature that they've added during lockdown and during the fact that there's lots of redundancies in job seeking here, that I can decide that I want to add to my profile that I am looking for work. Some information will be with recruiters only, as it says here, share with recruiters only, or I could add the circle that says I'm open to work and make it very publicly visible that I'm looking. So if it's open and honest, I would put it on there. If you're in a current role and you don't want your employer to know that you are looking, then I wouldn't have that switched on.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole section here, and then the job section as well, that you can set up alerts for what you're looking for, whether it's the type of job you're looking for, the location. I have a couple of search alerts set up that are just in my field, just because I'm interested to see what companies are recruiting and what the job descriptions are. So I have alerts on marketing consultant and social media marketing consultants. And whenever jobs come up to match my criteria, I get an email about them. So I use it as much for watching as when I'm searching for work as well.
Got it. And typically I would say recruiters don't necessarily want you to know that they're looking at your profile. Is that fair?
I'm not sure if there's recruiters on here. I don't think recruiters are as savvy. Sometimes, they will have paid for accounts. They will be searching. Many of them play a numbers game and just want to send lots of messages to potential candidates. So whether you're in a current role or not in a current role, if you matched their spec for roles that they were recruiting for, they may reach out and send you messages anyway. There's obviously a larger pool of people that are looking right now, but for recruiters, it's a massive database. It's a database of skills, of jobs, of job titles, of locations, and they will pay a premium rate to be able to have those detailed search criteria and to be able to send messages to people as well. What is really important, I will just show you, is that if you're looking for a job, let me see, is many times a job has on the profile won't show on this one, will it? It has on the job profile skills that a company is looking for. Let's see if I can find one. Sometimes it has the skills that an employer has listed on their profile, and it will tell me how good a match my profile is.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
For that. Can't find one right now, but if there were skills listed, I would probably, look through the job descriptions and go back and try and edit my profile to match the requirements.
Sure.
So that,
that makes sense.
Yeah. So here,
there you go.
It's telling me, what skills they want and that I match 8 out of 10 of them. So, okay, if I wanted to apply for this, I probably need to just make sure that I've got these 2 words listed in the skills section of my profile. So in the same way as you would always tailor your cover letter for a job role, I would be looking through job descriptions and skills listings and then going back to my profile and just making sure that I can match the requirements as closely as possible. Because then if I applied either through LinkedIn or through their own websites and they looked at my LinkedIn profile, that they can kind of do that matching exercise.
Got it. I'm going to ask one more question. I don't want to interrupt your content too much or where you were
going
with things, but
I've kind of gone through that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So someone has a question that resonates with me because it's basically my situation as well. On my profile, it lists me as something very vague, like an author and relationship builder, because I published a book in March that has nothing to do with my work at General Assembly. And I don't talk about this very often in my General Assembly role because it doesn't fit. But someone asked about having like multiple LinkedIn presences because, and I'll just use myself as the example, like I have an operations and sales and marketing presence in my career, right? And then in my personal life, I do like science communication, and I wrote a book about science in the national parks, and I do shows about like science tourism and like online shows, and I tour people through national parks. So it's like these 2 super different worlds that I live in. So this person is wondering about having multiple LinkedIns. I would imagine that that's not necessarily the ideal, even though you're living these dual lives. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so there's a couple of things here, and it's a great question, and one that does come up, and particularly in the kind of the world that we're in right now. So Megan, you are one person, and even though you have multiple roles, you are one person. And if you had more than one profile on LinkedIn and I was searching for you, I wouldn't necessarily know which one to connect
Exactly,
with.
yeah.
So there's that, but also to have more than one profile is against LinkedIn's terms and conditions.
Well, there you go.
There is that. And also, it'd be quite a lot of work to maintain 2 different groups of people and all of this, but there is ways to work this. And, I'm in a similar situation. So you can, in the experience section of your profile, absolutely have multiple roles. So I'm a marketing consultant and I have that as a role that is open. I run another business. I have that as a role that is open. I'm a visiting fellow. I have that as a role that's open. I'm a trainer. I have that as a role that's open. I have various roles in my experience section. And the reason I list them separately is because I want to be found for them. So if someone was searching University of South Wales and wanted to find their visiting fellows, I would get found for it because I've listed myself as someone that is within that organisation. But actually the first thing that people do when they read your LinkedIn profile, after they've found you, there's a couple of things. One, you can put multiple things in your headline here. Doesn't just have to be your default job title at company name. I've got multiple things in there. But the other thing that you should do is use the about section at the beginning of your profile, because that's the first thing people will read. And that is almost where you can explain yourself. So just as you said, this is what I do by day, but I also do this. That is absolutely what you can write in this about section. So don't assume that people are going to look at the CV and go, oh, she's got all these different jobs. How does that work? You could quite easily in here, and I've done it, a typical working week for me involves supporting clients, planning, creating content. So I've tried to explain, if anyone was working down going, how does this all fit together? I tried to explain that in there. And I've seen people do it by kind of, my day job is this, but I also, like to run marathons, or I scuba dive, or I run teams with children, or sports teams, or I'm a school governor, or I'm a volunteer. And I think this about section at the top of your profile is almost where, if we were having a cup of coffee and going, so tell me about yourself and how did you get to do it, this is where you put it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
again, my biggest tip here, do everything you want your LinkedIn profile to do here. So if you need an experienced marketer to share and support your challenges, get in touch. If you're looking to refresh your skills or learn something, get some training. I've got people onto my profile, I've appeared in search, got them on my profile. Hopefully the first time they would read enough here to go, okay, I'll send her an email. They are not going to go through all of this stuff to try and work out my picture. So I need to take control of it at the top. But I have filled out everything on my profile so that if anyone is searching, I've got enough words in there, I've got enough skills in there, to help me get in those search appearances in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything I want people to know is at the beginning. And I make it really easy for them to get in touch with me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Because that is where the free and the premium account come in, is that sometimes people think that it's harder to get in touch with people unless you have a paid for account and you have those in-mail credits. I don't want to make it difficult for people to contact me. So I just make sure that I put my details on my profile and do it that way.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, we have about a little over 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
I kind of want to rapid fire you with the Q&A.
Yeah. Cool.
Quite literally put you on the hot seat. So,
okay.
If any of them don't make sense, maybe people can clarify them in the chat. So is there a way to data mine times, locations, industry on an aggregate basis to get an idea of themes in your connections? And I feel like my response to that is not really, but maybe I haven't been trying hard enough.
Not really. You cannot export data out of LinkedIn. You can now export your own data in terms of your activity, but that data export has been limited since data protection regulations. So you can't even export email addresses of your contacts, etc. So there is very little that you can extract. LinkedIn, one of their, I think it's their vision or their mission is about creating an economic graph and opportunity. So they will release data. They do release monthly reports in terms of confidence, workplace reports, stats, and aggregated data, but it has to come from them. It's not something that you can really mine.
Gotcha. Okay. I think we answered this, but you do not, or you don't need to pay necessarily for general detail of profile views, but you do need to pay for like more detail. Is that correct?
With a free account, you would only see the last 4 or 5 people under the who's viewed your profile. It would literally stop. It would just show you the last 4 or 5 people involved. I'm up 101%. People are looking at my profile as we're doing this. Thank you. If I had a free account, it would literally stop there. But because I have a paid for account, I can scroll on.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as job hunting goes, to circle back, would you say that it's better to try to connect with companies that you're interested in and then find employees to contact there? Or is there any general protocol that you have suggestions on?
A company page for me on LinkedIn is a bit like a web page. You don't really do too much interaction with it. You may see news content. You can, if you go to a company page, see all the employees that are listed there. So if you needed to find out who the HR manager was or the marketing manager, you could do that via the company page. But ultimately, who's interviewing you, who's managing you, or you managing them is a person. So it's all about one-to-one people profiles on LinkedIn. Company pages for me are just a bit more of a holding place.
Gotcha. And would you have any specific advice on, I think we have some students who aren't necessarily in the professional world right now. Any just general advice on using their data to build their presence in their field of choice?
Connect with people. So search for people and connect with them. My biggest tip with connecting, and I can see I got some notifications, is send them a message. So if you're connecting with me after this, just say, I watched your General Assembly session. If you're a student and you're finding people in your world, just flatter them, say, I came across your profile, been watching what you do, would love to connect. My biggest tip for students, and I do a lot of talks at universities, find the alumni of your course. So search through your university contacts, find someone that did your course in the last 4 or 5 years, because they will still be affectionate about their course and their university, and just kind of send them a message of, hi, I'm currently studying at, I see you did my course 4 or 5 years ago, just wondered what advice you could share with me that you wish you knew then. And, you know, an alumni would kind of go, that's nice, of course I'll help. You know, I
would be charmed, yeah.
Exactly. So flatter a bit of egos, but just something I've learned a lot recently is don't be afraid to ask, whether it's a chief exec or an influencer or someone, you know, that's doing what you're doing already. As long as you respect them and show them that you've looked at their profiles and perhaps, you know, done a little bit of research, don't, you know, flatter them slightly, they will give you their time back. So, you know, show that you've spotted something or you've enjoyed the seminar, can you help? And start a relationship. And, you know, and people will reciprocate on that.
Sure. Sorry, I don't know why I'm apologizing, but this is just all over the place, and I think that's just the nature of it. Number of search appearances. So can you see them for more historical, like more back farther in history than 90 days?
No.
Okay.
No. So that's why I scribble them down in a diary every Monday morning.
Okay, that makes sense. And then a couple of people want to know how to increase your presence in search appearances. So could you speak to any strategies around that a little bit?
Yeah, so that is around thinking about who is it you want to find you. So if I wanted to get, it's about making sure that your profile is complete for what people might be searching for. So if people are searching for a LinkedIn trainer, I need to make sure that I put the word LinkedIn trainer in my profile. It's a bit like searching Google, you know, it's about having those words in there. So it's not trying to overthink it or, you know, dark art SEO, but if I want to offer LinkedIn training services, I need to make sure that my profile says I'm a LinkedIn trainer, I do LinkedIn training, this is what I do, and then I will appear in the search results. So it's just making sure that you think about and you write your profile for the kind of things and the people that you want to find you.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice on how to remember why or how you're connected with a person, especially in person? Like, is there a way to make a note about a person, or is this a diary situation again for you?
This is where the initial invitation request is really useful. So, you know, if I'd sent you a message, Megan, after we first met saying, you know, really great to speak to you today, really glad you loved the article, look forward to an event. When I went onto your profile and I went to send you a new message, I'd be able to see that old message as well. So it's about the dialogue. There used to be, no point in kind of saying what used to be, you used to be able to tag people and kind of put reasons and tags against people. You can do that if you have a much higher level of LinkedIn called Sales Navigator. You can tag and, you know, it's a bit more like a CRM system, but on a day-to-day basis, I would personally rely on messaging and the message history, or just simply making sure that I only connect with people that I have met and can remember them and would refer them and want to have a cup of coffee with them, rather than just collecting any clicks that go on.
And I have one more question about like free to premium that I think you'll have some insight on. Yeah. So someone is saying that they have a free account and they tried to send a message to someone, but now it's locked. And so now they're following the person in the hopes that they'll be able to message them after. Is that how you would recommend doing it? I also know that when you click to connect with somebody, there's an opportunity to write the message of why you want to connect with them. So that's often the route that I go, which I think you were alluding to in the beginning of the talk. Yeah.
So try and connect with them. There is a way, and there's I think there's a how-to video. If not, I'll record one afterwards. If you are in the same group as someone, you can send them a message simply by virtue of you both being in the same group. So you could look at their profile, scroll down to the bottom and it says interests, then see what groups they're in. If you're not already in one of those groups, just join it and wait a few days. Go to the group, search for that person, and you can send a message. You can send 15 of those a month, you know, across all groups, but you don't need a paid for account to do that. So it's kind of a little workaround, but I would just try and personalize your message and connect with people. For me, just to kind of top it off, there's two big reasons to have a paid for LinkedIn account. One is everyone that's viewed your profile. And the second, and I would say this, but is the access to the LinkedIn Learning course library of thousands and thousands of training courses. That is part of the premium subscription.
Sure. Okay. Well, this has been super, super helpful. One more question I think that we can sneak in, and I'm sorry, there were a couple that we just didn't have time to get to, and I think that's okay. People are wondering about, what was that?
I'm happy if people have got questions afterwards that they send me a message or a connection request and just let them know that we didn't get around to answering their question.
Oh, sure. That's really, really helpful. Yeah. Salary estimates on LinkedIn for positions. Can you weigh in with any insights you have on really any aspect of that?
I'm not a recruiter, so I don't have insights on salaries, and you know, my personal insights is that the world has changed and salaries are probably changing alongside those in the situation that we're in. So yeah, I can't offer that insight.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think it's just something that comes to mind for a lot of people, especially when they're in the deep in the throes of the job hunt. So the last question I'm going to ask you has come up a couple times, and it's for our bilingual folks. Is it, you know, when you're connecting with somebody, what's the situation with LinkedIn and multiple languages? Certainly if you're a person who is involved in multiple language in your professional life.
I had this question a few weeks ago. There is now a translate version, so you can translate your profile. And I think probably not an example in my newsfeed, but if there was something there that wasn't in my language, there would be a translate button underneath. So I would be able to, a bit like Google Translate, be able to see what that says and get involved in it.
Okay.
LinkedIn help is brilliant. So if you ever just search LinkedIn help bilingual, you know, translated profiles, you'll get the Q&A answer on it.
Awesome. Okay. Super helpful. Well, I'm going to wrap up to be respectful of everybody's time. I'm going to download the chat and be able to send that as a text document as well in the follow-up, so people have that information. The recording will be sent in follow-up, and Luann, you and I can connect and just asynchronously share links and stuff for people to have. It's been really wonderful to have you here and all of these folks attending. Feel free, like I said, I'm an open book. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me emails and questions. I'm here for everybody. If you have questions about anything today or anything about General Assembly, I can definitely be your point person. And I hope that everyone has a good evening or afternoon, depending. And Luann, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, just thank you. I love the questions, so I'm sorry I haven't been able to look at the chat at the same time, but yeah, connect with me, find me, send me messages. I love the questions as well. You know, as we said before we started, you never know what you don't know, and when you've been using this for a long time, you kind of forget the beginner questions as well, and things always change. So yeah, my LinkedIn's completely open, and I'd love to hear from everyone as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. So look for the follow-up, everybody. And thanks again. I hope everyone has a really good rest of their week.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.